The full moon in Virgo on Tuesday, March 7th, squares Mars, bringing frustrations, conflicts, and overwhelm as we sort through facts and fiction and try to figure out which path to choose. Let's take a closer look and break it down for all 12 signs. My name is Anastasia. I'm a traditional Western astrologer specializing in natal, relationship, and predictive astrology. I do readings, I create content for you guys, and if you'd like to work with me, there are links down there. And if you're new to my channel, please subscribe, leave me a like or a comment. It helps YouTube algorithm to put my content in front of more people. And it just started to snow, like very heavily, so I think that's a good sign. Hopefully it lasts. We didn't really have proper snow in New York, and it snowed a little bit last night, so fingers crossed we get actual snow. But yes, please subscribe if you haven't yet. Leave me a like or a comment. Appreciate all of that. If you like my work and you would like to work with me and receive personal consultations every month or receive written horoscopes specifically tailored to your chart, you can also get a horoscope subscription and get a more personal take on your chart. And finally, I wanted to tell you that I am going to be hosting a travel retreat that will be astrology themed, and it will be in the Spanish islands of Mallorca and Ibiza. There is a lot of astrological information there because I'll be hosting workshops about the full moon and the houses and the aspects, as well as a lot of exploration, a Spanish cooking class, a boat tour, sunset cruise, a lot of kind of wonderful nature exploration learning, which, you know, as someone who's born with the moon in Gemini in her 9th house, it just tingles all of my spider senses, all of my Gemini senses. So this full moon occurs on Tuesday, March 7th, early in the morning at 16 degrees, 40 minutes Virgo. It's interesting because this is literally happening like an hour before Saturn enters Pisces. So it's a significant, March 7th is like a significant day. And this full moon definitely has a frustrating touch to it, like I mentioned in the opening of this video. But before we even talk about that, the full moon is always a completion of a cycle that got started with a new moon. We had a new moon in Virgo on August 27th, 2022. So the themes I'll be covering when I go through your rising sign horoscopes, take a look back at late August and early September and see how were those topics in your life around that time, right? Like, did you have any important realizations? Did you start anything new? Because like I said, this could be a completion of that. Here we are dealing with Pisces versus Virgo. Pisces is the dreamer that may fly away from reality, you know, kind of go too far up into the clouds. Virgo is the hard realist that stays super grounded, and the full moon is your opportunity to look at the Piscean dreams through a more serious and thorough lens of Virgo. Do you need to write a plan? Do you need to make some phone calls? Do you need to get your money in order? So it's very much like, what kind of tangible changes you can make to your life that will help you get to where you're going, right? Help you get to where what you're trying to achieve. There is a trine. The full moon is separating from a trine to Uranus because the moon is in Virgo, Uranus is in Taurus. So a trine to Uranus feels like a breakthrough, a new beginning, an opportunity, or something that you're excited about, like a new resource coming your way, a new job offer, some kind of possibility. But at the same time, there's a square to Mars. And the square to Mars is very much in the middle of March, on March 14th, I believe, we're gonna have the third Mars-Neptune square. Mars squaring Neptune can create a sense of uncertainty and lethargy to some level. It's like there is this new plan and new dream, but you don't know how to proceed. You doubt yourself, you second guess yourself, you feel like, who are you to achieve it? Or, you know, like there's some kind of struggles, disappointment, uncertainty that can come with this Mars square Neptune. And the square perfects a week away from the full moon, and because it's such a slow moving, you know, Neptune moves so slowly and Mars is still kind of gaining the momentum, we start to feel the square even with the full moon. We've had Mars-Neptune squares just recently because Mars has been in Gemini since August 2022. So Mars has squared Neptune in mid-October and mid-November. And I don't know about you, but I have definitely felt like low on energy. I think my immune system was compromised. So this full moon definitely has a bit of that frustrating energy where like maybe you're trying, but you're not getting where you want to go, or literally like your immune system is telling you that you need to stop and you need to take care of yourself. So I feel like, you know, Virgo is a very holistic in a lot of ways sign. It's the sign of a healer. It wants to help others. So, but I wonder if like with the whole like Mars Neptune square, do you need to help yourself before you can help other people? So that could be that, just like needing to take a break, needing to pause to look through all the information you have and maybe not like rush head first into things. Can also be about sorting through clutter. Like when I think about Mars and Gemini, I sometimes think, as someone who has moon in Gemini or any Gemini placement, sometimes it's like a TV that's on and it's throwing a lot of information at you. And a lot of this information can be useful, right? It could be important and necessary for you to know. But at the same time, if you're constantly being bombarded with facts and data and new information, what is real, right? Like kind of you start to question, or you don't even have a moment to understand what's important to you. You just get so distracted, so overwhelmed by things, that this full moon really like asks you to turn the sound off from the clutter and maybe like take a step back and reconnect and like, you know, take like simple steps, nurture your health, nurture your body, write lists, take it one step at a time. Do not like push yourself, because we have so much exciting Jupiter, Venus, and Aries energy that like we just had Venus conjoin Jupiter on March 2nd, and you know, there's definitely a lot of new beginnings, but this full moon is saying that before you proceed, you need to like close a chapter. So, yeah, so examining your dreams for longevity and the future is a big part of this full moon, I think. And sometimes because there's a square to Mars, sometimes you may face adversity. You may have someone kind of shove your face into the facts potentially. So that would be a more negative manifestation of it. The more positive, and try to be proactive, maybe try to sit with your plans and try to make a plan and like, you know, examine the resources that you have versus just believing that you have enough resources. So yeah, it doesn't have to be like a slap in the face, but it could definitely feel like that a little bit with a square to Mars. So be careful for what you say. It's all very like Mars and Gemini, Virgo, both are ruled by Mercury, and Mercury is in Pisces at the time of this full moon. So Mercury is also in its detriment. So Mercury may not have all the facts and all the data and may sort of float away with imagination. So like another emphasis on make sure to listen to the facts and take it slow and take it easy and like lean into things that you know for sure. If you don't know how to get from point A to point B, do things that, you know, like meditation, massage, yoga, things that will definitely make you feel better. So let's take a look at all 12 signs. I do rising signs because rising sign is a starting point of your chart. And I'm sorry, it's just so beautiful. It's snowing, it's snowing. I've been so frustrated with the fact that it hasn't snowed in New York yet. So rising sign is the starting point of the chart. Rising sign determines where all the transits fall and all the planets fall. So horoscopes are pretty much always written for the rising sign, but you can listen to your sun or your moon sign and take what resonates, leave what doesn't. So if you are an Aries rising, there's a full moon in your 6th house and it squares Mars in the 3rd. So Mars in the 3rd for Aries risings has been creating a lot of busy work. Your schedule could have been super fast. There would have been more messages, more short trips, more action. And this full moon feels like you've had enough. It feels like something needs to change because the full moon in the 6th house really brings your attention to your health, to your immediate environment, to being more present with yourself. So I feel like, what kind of changes do you need to make to your everyday life in order to be more aligned with your well-being or to have a better work-life balance? The square to Mars in the 3rd house could also bring conflicts with siblings or neighbors. Like if your neighbor owes you money, for example, and they're not paying off, there might be some kind of exchange between you two where it can get heated, but you can also try to be constructive and compromise and maybe figure out a solution, right? Like come up with a step-by-step plan of them paying you back. Take good care of your health. This feels like a good time to release any self-defeating negative habits you might have. If you are a Taurus rising, there's a full moon in your 5th house squaring Mars in the 2nd house. So Mars in the 2nd could have created a sense of pressure when it comes to finances. Maybe you felt like you have to hustle a lot and you felt pretty competitive and there's been like a lot of action. Or potentially there would have been some disagreements between you and your partner, your creative partner, your romantic partner, your financial partner. And so the tensions connected to money and values will need to be hashed out, right? Like you can, as a full moon in the 5th house, you can definitely expect changes to your romantic relationship where if you are not on the same page with your partner, you need to talk it out. And, if you're not coming to an agreement, maybe make some changes, like separate if the relationship is not going anywhere, or figure out how to deal with things, right? Like, let's say you've been paying for 100% of everything in your relationship and you're feeling fed up with that, and that leads to a conversation and some kind of new dynamic in your relationship. Similarly, because 5th house deals with creative projects and children, the disagreements you might be having can be connected to that. And if you are single, this could definitely be about your personal sense of joy, where with Mars being in the 2nd house, you are rethinking what gets you excited and what makes you happy. And as a result, you may be letting go of some of the time wasters and choosing things that are more fun and more satisfying. If you are a Gemini rising, there's a full moon in your 4th house squaring Mars in the 1st. So Mars in a square to the full moon feels like your personal goals are somehow at odds with your living situation. So, like Mars in the 1st really wants to take action, to be a leader, to initiate things. But the full moon in the 4th says that before you do that, you have to clear out some family karma, or you have to figure out your living situation. Maybe it's as simple as, maybe that's not too simple, but like, let's say Mars in the 1st house and you want to become a flight attendant, right? But your living situation doesn't really allow for you to be away a lot, right? Like maybe you have a family member that relies on you. So I wonder with this full moon, how can you make compromises, right? Like how can you make adjustments that allow you to pursue your goals while also maintaining the duties and responsibilities you have to your family? The full moon in the 4th can also bring changes to your sense of comfort, you know, like something that used to feel good no longer does, and you're letting that go. There might be changes to your parents' lives, and that affects your sense of self. And moving, renovating, completing a home renovation project, like clearing space out, getting rid of a lot of stuff so that you can even like, you know, sometimes I feel like getting rid of things helps open up space inside of us to, you know, you get rid of physical things, or you clean out your email list and you have more space to think about things. So maybe think of that. For Cancer rising, there's a full moon in the 3rd house. It squares Mars in the 12th house. Full moon in the 3rd can bring changes to your schedule, to your sibling relationship. It can bring going on a trip that you have been planning for a long time, or completing, like taking an exam, completing a writing project. Take a look at what got started in your life in late August. Like, have you started planning a trip? Have you started studying for something? Have you started writing, right? Or kind of working on some way of sharing your knowledge with other people. This full moon can definitely bring changes to that, completion of a lot of those topics and closing. The square to Mars in the 12th house makes me feel like perhaps the full moon in Virgo and, you know, the sun being in the 9th house implies that you have these goals, you have these desires to teach, to share your wisdom, to inspire, to travel. But Mars in the 12th says that, like, it's very much the energy of, like, how are you doubting yourself? How are you second guessing yourself? How are you standing in your own way? And for some people, it could be literally doubting yourself. For others, it might be partying too much, or making decisions that derail you or take you off course. So expect some kind of frustrations that are potentially connected to yourself, because Mars in the 12th is the biggest enemy of self. So feeling frustrated with yourself is likely. Try to not be really hard on yourself. Instead, focus on releasing something or addressing things in your blind spot so that you can better proceed to, you know, following your dreams. Yeah. Start by believing in yourself. Believe in yourself. Additionally, there might be some kind of changes in the lives of your siblings, neighbors, that maybe affect you, and, you know, like Mars in the 12th, maybe you feel jealous of someone, or you feel like frustrated with someone. But I think here it's more like, okay, what is this telling you about yourself? If you feel jealous of someone, maybe it's a sign that you need to work on getting to a place that the other person, or like getting to have the thing that other person has that you may seek or crave or desire. If you are a Leo rising, there's a full moon in your 2nd house. It's squaring Mars in the 11th. Full moon in the 2nd house oftentimes brings financial changes. So take a look at what was happening with your money back in late August 2022. Have you started working on a promotion? Have you asked for a raise? Have you taken out a debt? Because this full moon can definitely bring, like, getting that promotion, paying off a debt, you know, as much as potentially like letting go of a job. The square to Mars in the 11th feels like potentially a disagreement with colleagues, or disagreement with friends, where you realize that your values no longer align and you make changes. So like full moon in the 2nd house could also mean letting go of a friendship because you no longer agree, or letting go of a career or a job because it doesn't satisfy your plans for the future. Additionally, 11th house represents dreams, and with Mars being here, you may realize that your dreams do not align with your current situation, right? So maybe you need to, like I said, make some kind of changes to your job or to your financial situation in order to help get you there. It could be a good time to rethink what truly matters to you and rethink the resources you have available, and perhaps figure out a better use of those resources to get you where you're trying to go. If you are a Virgo rising, this is pretty big. There's a full moon in your first house and it's squaring Mars in the 10th. Full moons in the first house always bring changes to your health, your well-being, your personality, your goals, priorities, projects that you feel passionate about. The square to Mars in the 10th feels like some kind of frustration with your current professional situation, perhaps a sense that doing the work that you're doing, if it's not like a career, if it's not a job that you really enjoy, is limiting your growth. It's limiting your professional or like your sense of happiness and satisfaction. Take a look back at late August 2022 to see what was happening in your professional life, because, or even in your personal life, what kind of projects you got going or you had started at the time, because around this time they may be completing. It really feels like, you know, maybe you get in a fight with a boss, or you get in a disagreement, or you just have like a sense of restlessness and you think that your current professional status is no longer satisfying, so then you need to make changes. It might also be like Mars might be like a fire starter. It might be inspiring you to make adjustments to your work situation. It's interesting because like the sun is in the 7th house of relationships, Saturn is going into your 7th house of relationships. So I wonder if the changes you're making to your life and to your career are connected to your relationship sector and to other people in your life. So take good care of yourself, because this full moon feels overwhelming. If you are a Libra rising, there's a full moon in your 12th house. It's squaring Mars in the 9th. Woohoo! So 12th house is the place of self-defeating tendencies. It's the place of hidden desires. And with the full moon here, you're potentially releasing some self-defeating tendency. You can experience a sense of better self-understanding and seeing something for what it truly is, and seeing something as no longer serving you. Something, someone, a relationship, a bad habit. Take a look back at late August 2022. I personally, as a Libra rising, remember August being so eye-opening when it comes to my social media strategy and the fact that I didn't have good boundaries between social media and my personal life, and so needing to make changes felt very urgent and necessary at that time. Have I made them? Am I really good at it now? I guess this full moon might be very much about that. Like, are you acting with your own best interest at heart, right? And it could be so many different things. Like, are you eating too much sugar? Are you playing video games until 2 in the morning and then waking up completely drained and grumpy and unhappy? 12th house is also a place of your talents and your desires. And the question might also be like, have you addressed your secret passions? Have you given them attention and thought? Have you brought out your hidden secrets into the world? There's a square to Mars in the 9th, and the full moon in the 12th can also be very much about learning to accept that you don't have control. 12th house is the place of letting things go and letting go of control, letting go of your physical body, because it's the 12th house right before the 1st, which is very much about physical body. So the full moon in the 12th and a square with Mars in the 9th means that there might be some kind of educational, travel, legal matters that feel out of control. And the more you try to grasp and hold on to them, the more frustrating it will feel. It might also be a sign that you don't quite have all the data yet. You don't quite know all the facts. And I would urge you not to take action, but instead take a step back, lean into therapy, journal, meditate, and take it easy around this time, because as Saturn enters your 6th house, it's not gonna be very chill for you for the next few years. If you are a Scorpio rising, there's a full moon in your 11th house. It squares Mars in the 8th. Full moon in the 11th can bring changes to friendships, to networks, to group projects. Connected potentially because there's a square to Mars in the 8th. There could be like tensions and conflicts in friendships because of some kind of money situation, like somebody owes money to the other person, or perhaps a disagreement, different values. 8th house also deals with your partner's resources and your partner's money. And 11th house represents your plans for the future. So there might also be some kind of tension and a financial matter, or, 8th house is not just finances. It's like money, values, resources of the other person. So if they feel at odds with what you're trying to accomplish or where you're going towards, you may have to have an honest conversation, right? And maybe if it's a friend who has consistently been abusing your energy and your generosity, this might also be the time to release that friendship or rethink how much time you spend with them and how much energy you give them. You can also expect completion of group projects because of some kind of financial matter, like maybe you've been, I don't know, investing a lot of money into some kind of creative project, but the money runs out, or you feel like you want to use money a different way. So try to be honest, try to have honest conversations instead of just cutting people off, because that could be maybe something you will regret later, potentially, unless it's something you've thought about already for a while. If you are a Sag rising, there's a full moon in your 10th house squaring Mars in the 7th. Square to Mars in the 7th feels like romantic frustration, relationship frustration, one-on-one dynamic. If you're not in a relationship, maybe someone in your life who is your de facto spouse. You may have a disagreement with them. You may have a misunderstanding that then affects your career, right? Like perhaps they feel like they want to move and you don't want to move, and you need to address that. And as a result, your professional life changes because maybe you do end up moving. Take a look at what was happening in your career in late August 2022. Did you start a new job? Did you start a new project? Did you open a business? This could definitely be like some kind of recognition as well. I just feel like the square to Mars feels like maybe the professional chapter is coming to a close, but somehow your relationship is at odds with it. Maybe your partner doesn't agree with the opportunity you're getting, or maybe the tensions in your relationship need to be addressed, right? Like the full moon in the 10th is not just career, it's also your visibility and your status and your reputation. And it seems like you are reviewing not just professional matters, but you're also reviewing your relationships for long-term potential, longevity, and whether they can survive the test of time is a big question here. I feel like this full moon sounds like a bit of a downer, but it just feels tense. It feels tense. It doesn't, doesn't have to be all negative. Like if we are aware and we're keeping our attention on what's important, like, staying kind to people we love, then it can work out good. But it definitely feels complicated. So Capricorn rising, there's a full moon in your 9th house. It squares Mars in the 6th. Square to Mars in the 6th feels like there's frustrations connected to your everyday work, potentially health matters you need to address, maybe something connected to pets that demands your attention. The full moon in the 9th draws your attention to the sector of publishing, travel, writing, education, religion. And you're really, with this full moon, you are focusing on completing something in that sector. It might be completing education, it might be completing a work that you've been focusing on, like completing a writing project. But the square to Mars just feels like something in your everyday life is not letting you focus on it, or you realize that because your everyday life is so demanding, right? With Mars in the 6th, Mars is going to leave your 6th on March 25th, but it's still there for now. That something in your everyday life is so demanding that you need to temporarily let go of that travel, education, religious, writing, publishing matter, or you need to approach it differently, right? Like I said in the beginning of this video, it's very much about like what is real, what is important, what is more of a dream. And so here you are needing to attend to both your immediate duties while remembering that you're working towards something greater, and not give up any of them, but maybe take a step back and reconsider. But yeah, it could also be like a change to your beliefs, to your views, maybe a legal matter coming full circle. But the square to Mars feels like it could potentially be frustrating. Maybe, you were hoping that the legal battle you're in gets resolved easily and quickly and in your favor, but it gets delayed and kind of dragged out. If you are an Aquarius rising, there's a full moon in the 8th house squaring Mars in the 5th house. Full moon in the 8th will bring changes to the resources you share with other people, and the resources, money, energy, things that they are sharing with you. So of course, full moon here, it could mean more resources. It could mean the other person kind of like offers you all of the things they have, and maybe even like signs off something to you. Like if there is, like this could be receiving an inheritance potentially. On the other hand, there might be a chance that the resources will get cut off, and you will need to balance things and try to figure out how to deal with financial matters. There's a square to Mars in the 5th, so I could see this as a romantic GIF battle. I don't know. Can you say romantic tiff? Probably not. But like a romantic disagreement, a romantic tension, right? There could also be frustrations connected to children, where you and your partner kind of butt heads. You want to do one thing when it comes to kids, they want to do other thing. And so if there is some kind of frustration, you definitely need to come together and figure out a good strategy and think about approaching things from a more balanced level, I think. So yeah, like be careful that you don't kind of yell at your kids or get like in a dramatic exchange in front of the children. Just, I mean, this could also be like a chance that maybe something is frustrating to you, but you take action, you like pay off a debt, or you get like a better financial strategy. So it doesn't have to be all negative, but yeah, like be mindful, because it's a bit of a frustrating full moon. Last but not least, if you are a Pisces rising, this full moon happens in your 7th house and it's squaring Mars in your 4th. So tense energy, right? The square to Mars is not fun. Mars is creating a lot of action in your real estate, your home, family sector. And there might be some kind of developments that are at odds with your relationship. Maybe you have to move. Maybe you have to move in with your partner because your apartment is getting renovated. And the full moon in the 7th will reveal and highlight all the tensions and all the difficulties in the relationship. And if you're single, look at it as your significant relationships, right? Like your one-on-one dynamics, or even the future of your business and your business partnership can get tested by this development with Mars being in the 4th house. As a result, the relationship can get through it and grow stronger. Yes, like maybe you don't feel happy with this immediate development and the fact that, you have to move, or you have to rethink your living situation, or maybe even some family dynamics. Maybe like a family member disagrees with your romantic choice, or a family member needs attention, and that brings stress to your relationship. So like I said, the result could be strengthening a bond, or it could be perhaps a realization that you have very different values and you see the future, and like, you know, you kind of don't have the same idea of what your family is going to look like, or what your living situation is going to look like. And as a result, you may need to rethink whether this relationship is long lasting. But I'm gonna wish for you and for everyone that this full moon just brings some tension that results in growth. So this is it. Stay safe, drink lots of water, get a massage, take good care of yourself, and this full moon will not affect you much. Anyways, I'll talk to you soon. Bye.